All right, to say that the launch of the BILT 2.0 system has been a disaster would somehow still be an understatement, right? So, unlike some of the bigger creators who were invited to their launch event as partners, so, they're kind of in a tough spot and can't really say what it is and call it what it is. I wanted to give my thoughts on the issue because this whole rollout is going to end up being the biggest news story in the points and miles world for January 2026. And then I also want to provide a few PSAs for people who may be affected by this ordeal, and then close it out with my thoughts, plans, recommendations on going forward when it comes to BILT. If you've never seen me before, hi, I'm Kong. I've been deep into the churning hobby, aka the right way to play points and miles, since 2017. So I've learned a thing or two about the game in that time. And if you want to pick up some nuggets of wisdom, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. I do have a lot more subscribers, followers, all that on TikTok and Instagram, so you can find me there as well. And more importantly, comment with the topics and things that you want someone like me to cover. At the end of the day, creators are here to provide value. So you tell me what is valuable to someone in your situations, and I'll try my best to address that and help you. All right, so we got 4 chapters to hit. Chapter 1. No more free lunch, right? Whatever spin that BILT tried to put on it, including the disastrous social media post by Richard Kerr, you're not going to get points from paying rent or mortgage without offering something in return, some kind of sacrifice to the paywall, as I've called it in the past, right? Of course, yes, one of those options is simply pay a fee that you can use to unlock the points, but in addition to that, of course, they will give you 2 other ways that are basically centered around simply spending more on the card. They launched with option 1 and added option 2 later on and called it responding to feedback. And I get it. They need to be a profitable company, right? There's probably good reason that Wells Fargo initially said, hey, man, we're not doing this anymore, and cardless had to take over. But expecting people to spend a similar amount that's on par or close to the housing costs that they have on a monthly basis is asking for a lot. It's pretty challenging, especially if you live in a high cost of living area and you're trying to be frugal because your housing is so expensive. Trying to come close to that just so you can unlock your rent points, it's not an easy thing. So, and like I said, with the panicked introduction of the second option, which is based more on like a total percentage of what you spend each month relative to your rent, at the end of the day, it's not solving the issue at hand, which is you are convoluting something that your consumer base is turned off by, right? Because people nowadays don't have an attention span longer than 5 seconds. And if you can't explain it in that time, if it's not simplified enough for them to understand it, they're going to turn away from it and move on to something else. Chapter 2. The more glaring change that is being lost in the confusion about earning points from rent is the fact that you're not even going to be able to put your rent on the line of credit with your card anymore. And you're not going to be able to float that money on the BILT card. And instead, now BILT is going to pull directly from your ACH for housing payments. I think they said within a 24-hour time span. So this basically just makes BILT the middleman, right? They're processing rent, processing mortgage. And I think this can harm a lot of people who are already on a certain payment cadence, or for whatever reason, they have to delay their rent payments by a few weeks and put it on their credit cards until a time when they're ready to pay it. So if it weren't for the potential like dangling of the points, which again, I remind you, they're locked behind a paywall, essentially, if you're trying to get them from rent, there really isn't a point to use BILT, right? To pay your rent and mortgage, because it's essentially doing the same thing, ACH pull. So it's not any different than you just doing it with your bank account like you've always done, especially when I know like some mortgage lenders, they offer you a discount if you do that directly or you have auto pay set up. So you could potentially be sacrificing that and not getting what you used to get from BILT. Chapter 3, rather than a seamless transition that they promised over and over in the press releases, it's rather more of a transition that is bursting at the seams. So based on social media comments, message that I've gotten on my account, Reddit data points, there's 2 major issues that people are running into. And when I say people, these are BILT's loyal customers. These are people who are actually trying to transition from 1.0 to the new 2.0 system. And what these people are running into, essentially, they're forced to apply for a new account, even though in the press releases prior to this launch said that it would be a seamless transition of your old account to a new one. That doesn't seem to be the case because BILT reps themselves have told people, tell customers, hey, this is going to be a new account. It's going to start with an age of 0 months and eventually 1 month, right? And this really to be determined how this all shakes out and settles out. But that's the first PSA that I want to put out for you. Worse is that some people are getting declined, right? So how can you transition when you're being declined for 2.0? There's really no recourse. Again, the CEO and other leadership on BILT has said there's going to be dedicated reconsideration lines and specialists who can help you. And such an avenue does not seem to exist, right? Reps have literally told customers you're just going to have to wait something like 45 days and then try to reapply at that time, which is way beyond that deadline that they initially set. So, yeah, be on the lookout if you are someone who is trying to switch over from 1.0 to 2.0. Honestly, this is what I'm doing. I'm waiting for the dust to settle. I'm going to let a few months go by before everything settles down a little bit and we have a clearer picture of what to expect. And in terms of expectations, honestly, I would expect the new 2.0 to be a new account. So if you care about 524, if you care about recent velocity, just keep that in mind and be willing to sacrifice a slot like that if you want to go to 2.0. And last but not least, chapter 4. So going forward, we do have to shift how we view the BILT card. It's no longer the card that you're going to pay rent on, and that's what BILT became known as. It is the rent card. So getting anything from rent now, just treat it as bonus, as icing on the cake, right? Otherwise, it just basically joins the ranks of all the other travel points that cards that are out there. They did launch with 3 products, right, as a 2.0. So there's different perks, different earning structures to them. And if you take this perspective, if you now view it as just like any other travel card, I think there are some positives to consider. So BILT in 2026 is still the most useful currency. I don't think anyone's going to argue on that, right? That's never been their fault. And that's because of the lineup of their transfer partners, right? They've managed to take Hyatt from being an exclusive with Chase, which is essentially what's making Chase the previous number 1 before BILT came on the scene. BILT also has really unique partners like Alaska, which don't really have a mechanism for you to transfer points from other currencies. So there's a lot of value there. And when you combine this with the fact that you can earn something like 3x on dining or groceries, you have to pick one or the other from the Obsidian card or just earning 2x flat on the Palladium card. There's some interesting options that emerge at this point for people who want to leverage those earning rates, right? I can see business owners or really high spending people benefit tremendously from this, especially if you have a lot of real estate, right? You're looking at essentially uncapped 2x on tens of thousands of dollars a month, which will, of course, allow you to rack up enough points to where you can afford business class flights, high-end Hyatt hotels in no time. So, and I think clever individuals who pick option 1, the whole, 75% of your rent to unlock the points, they will probably find ways to get around that by generating other spend. So I don't think it's going to limit people who want to take advantage of the opportunity. So hopefully all that has shed some light on things and gave you a perspective maybe you didn't think of. And if you learned something interesting, please, again, feel free to follow, subscribe, and I will see you next time.